know it's probably weird seeing this video uploaded like we haven't uploaded in a month of Sundays. Well, more than a month, it's almost been a year. So if you didn't realize, which if you are subscribed to this channel, I'm sure you did realize that Deidra and I ended up taking a break from this channel, some of it intentional, some of it unintentional. I think that we just both had a lot going on last year. Last year was a lot, speaking for myself, last year was a lot for me. I even had trouble keeping up with my other channel. But Deidra and I have really talked about it, and we wanted to revitalize this channel because we both have still been reading Black Love Romance, and I don't, my channel that I have is not 100% romance. So it is good to have a space to come and talk about Black Love Romance and that be the focus of the channel. So we are back, and we've created a schedule this go round that is going to be much easier for us to handle. I think we were super ambitious the first go round without realizing that we still had our personal lives. We both have jobs. We have things to take care of outside of what we do on YouTube, and we both have our own personal channels. So it ended up being a lot more than we anticipated. So to kind of kick it back off, to really delve back into what we were doing before, I am here with our first video talking about some Black Love Romances that I have on my TBR for 2022. As I always say in all of the videos that I put on here, I am a newbie at a lot of this. So I did not start reading romance until a few years ago, particularly Black Love Romance until a few years ago. So I am still exploring Black Love Romance myself, and I just love that we have this platform where we can really talk about our exploration of Black Love Romance. So these are some titles that some people may have already read or may be super familiar with, or there may be titles on here that you're not as familiar with and you're interested in checking out. So although this video says 10 Black Love Romances on my TBR, I just want to go ahead and preface this by letting you know that some of the books on this list are series. So it's not technically 10 books, it's 10 things that I have listed, and one of them actually includes 3 things, like 3 series. So I'm kind of cheating a little bit with this, but just for naming purposes, it was easier to go with 10 Black Love Romances on my 2022 TBR. So the first thing that I have on this list is actually a series that I just started this month, and I enjoyed the first book well enough that I really wanted to continue with the rest of the series. And this is the Carnival Chronicles, which is a 13-book series, but each book focuses on a different couple, and they are only connected, I believe, thematically, meaning that every couple that we see within the context of this series ends up meeting at this carnival that happens in Chicago. I think that's the only connecting factor, although I'm not sure yet because I just started the second book, so I'm not sure. I do know that the carnival that was happening in the first book is the same one that's happening in this second book, and I really did, like I said, I enjoyed the first book, and I'm excited to read through the rest of the series. It is long, like I said, it's 13 books, but one of the things that I like about these series where it's like a compilation of a lot of authors is that it's kind of like a taste test of authors maybe that you've never read from before. So there are authors on here that I am familiar with, that I have read from before, but then there are a greater amount of authors that I'm not as familiar with, and this will be a great way for me to kind of test out like their writing style and their character development, plot development, and see if I would want to explore more of their backlist of things that they have already written. So that is the first group of books that I have on my TBR. Like I said, I've already started the series, but I'm excited to continue on with the rest of the books. The next grouping that I have is, I actually should have just put this author as, you know, as one of the 10 Black Love Romances. I should have just said this is just an author that I'm working my way through, and that is Stephanie Nicole Norris. I have read her before prior to 2021. I started with her in the Heart of a Valentine series, and I had finished book 1 and 2 last year. I believe it was probably earlier last year. I read book 1 and 2, and then I wanted to spend some time diving back into that. So I recently finished book 3 in the Heart of a Valentine series, which, if you didn't know, in the Heart of a Valentine is basically a series that follows these brothers, the Valentine brothers, and the books themselves, I think, are very much so like structured the same way. We have a hero who is a Valentine brother who meets a heroine, and they spend the whole entire time of the book like falling in love, and then the heroine finds something wrong with the situation, kind of dips out a little bit, and then the Valentine brothers like, no, wait, here's why you should really try to make this work with me type of setup. So all 3 of the books that I've read so far in the series have pretty much been formatted the same way, but they are really easy reads. I am into a lot of like the various plot lines that do exist. I think I like the brothers as a whole, so I do want to continue this. I did put a pause on reading in the Heart of Valentine because, if you did not know, there's a second series called Falling for a Rose, which focuses on the Rose brothers. And the Valentine brothers and the Rose brothers are actually family rivals. So what's interesting about the rivalry is that the 4th book in a Heart of the Valentine series is actually kind of more like a novella, and it connects the 2 families together. So before I got to that book, because I think from what I've seen in some of the reviews is that you see all of the couples from the Falling for a Rose series in that novella in a Heart of the Valentine series. So I was like, I know that you can kind of read that as a standalone, but I always get that like little spark of joy when an author does stuff like that connection type of thing. I always really appreciate that. So it's like, I'm going to go back and I'm going to start the Falling for a Rose series. So I did recently just finish book 1 in the series, and I enjoyed it. And so I think that there are quite a few books in the series. It's probably like 7 or 8 books in this one. So I'm going to take my time working through that. So that's 2 series right there, which are interconnected, and I'm trying to work my way through both of those series. And then Stephanie Nicole Norris has another series that I just started. I don't know why I do this, and it's the Heavy on the D series. I did not expect Steph to really be as fire as it was. I was thinking like, okay, this is pretty cool. We have a heroine who's meeting a hero that works in basically kind of like this sex nightclub, and I don't know where it's going to go from there. But it was really intriguing and really interesting, and it was super steamy, and I was like fanning myself because the sex was so good. And the writing was good. I was totally mesmerized by that first book. So I definitely want to finish the second 2 books, which are not that long either. And I believe that wraps that entire series up. So unlike the first 2 series where we have all of these books, where it's like 6, 7, 8 books, and this one series is following a family, at least the Stiff books right now, to my knowledge, is just a trilogy. So it's Stiff, Strip, and Stroke are the 3 books in that series, and those are all the books that I want to read by Stephanie Nicole Norris this year. The next book that I have on this list is actually another first in the series, and that is In His Possession by Beloved. This is the first book in the Black Mayhem Mafia saga, which right now I believe is about 6 or 7 books. And I'm really excited to start the series. I don't really know much about it, except that I think it has some kidnapping elements to it, and that people have really, really enjoyed it. Okay, so the next one that I have is Crashing In on Love, and this is by Taylor Love. This is the first book in the Vacation Love series, and it focuses on 2 characters who both end up going to Jamaica for just a random trip, just for relaxation purposes, and they both end up crashing the same wedding. And when they meet each other there, they end up having a one-night stand, and then they both go their separate ways, but they can't really get away from each other, meaning that they're just constantly thinking about each other. So they end up, the hero ends up tracking down the heroine, and it kind of goes from there. I'm definitely excited to check this one out. I like a good story where it starts off where we think like, okay, we're just gonna like screw once and that's gonna be it. And then they realize like maybe it needs to be a little bit more than just sex. So I'm excited for that one as well. And I think the series is pretty short. So that's good. Yeah, the series is not that long. It seems like it's only a couple books. So looking forward to that one. The next one that I have on this list is another series. It's the Connecticut King series, and this is written by Love Belvin and Christina C. Jones. It's a sports romance series, and I believe that there are 8 books, and they each wrote 4, so they alternate back and forth. So Love Belvin starts with the first one, which is Love in the Red Zone, and then Christina C. Jones comes back with the second book. I just started reading the first book, but I am taking my time with the series. They are pretty lengthy books. I mean, they're average length. They're a little over 300 pages, and I'm reading them digitally. And I don't think I read as many sports romances as I think I do. So this is going to be interesting, especially because this one focuses on football, and I do watch football. And the day that this is going up, it is the Super Bowl, so it only seemed fitting to put this on this list. But honestly, CCJ was going to make it on this list some way, somehow. I have talked about this on my personal channel, where I have been reading a lot of her works. And when I say a lot, like last year, I think I read anywhere in between 10 to 15 of her books. So this year, I'm going to continue that trend and read more of her books, because I want to make it through her backlist. It's not going to be a thing that's going to happen anytime soon, because she writes so many books at one time. But it is something that I do want to make an effort to do in the near future, and I thought that this would also be a good series for me to kind of work my way through this year. The next one that I have is another one of those family series, and it is the Johnson Family series by Delaney Diamond. I don't know what it is about me reading these like family saga type series. I just really enjoy them. I actually ended up reading the first one, which was Unforgettable. I think I read this one last year, and I thought it was really good. It was kind of like a billionaire heiress type of trope going on, and it was a classic spin on like the Prince and the Pauper, or the Princess and the Pauper, or whatever that classic tale is. It was kind of like a spin on that, which I found really interesting. And I know that when I finished that one, I was like, I'm really interested in learning more about the Johnson family, but I never got around to picking up the next book in the series. I don't know how many books this one is. I don't think that it's that long. I probably should have checked this before. Yeah, this one's only 5 books, which is not bad. I think that it's great when we have series that are not super long. So this one's only 5 books, so, and most of the books are relatively short, or only like maybe 6 hours on audio. So this is one that definitely is also doable in terms of me like finishing the series for the year. Now they're gonna kill me. You're gonna be like, oh my gosh, the only thing that this girl reads is family saga books, because the next one on the list is the Mason Family Saga by Ashley Nicole. The thing about this one is that it's 7 books long, and I have read 3 out of the 7 books. I did not realize that it was a like series when I read 2 of the books, because they were both Thanksgiving novellas, and I was just like, oh, this is just a book that focuses on this couple, and we get a second book that ends up kind of tying in their HEA, because the first one was just an HFN, and I didn't really think much about it until I went looking at Ashley Nicole's backlist, because she's another author that I really enjoy reading. She makes me laugh whenever I need an escape and I need something that's lighthearted. And not saying that her books don't cover like difficult topics, because the first one in this series, it definitely deals with some mental health representation, and I think she did it very well. But I know that if I want to sit down and read a romance book, not just Black love romance, but if I want to read a romance book that's really going to make me feel good and make me laugh out loud, I always go to Ashley Nicole. So I was exploring her backlist, and I was like, oh, the 2 books that I read were actually part of a series. So that's why I went back and I read the first book last year. I'm not sure if I'm going to go back and reread the 2 novellas, but they were so hilarious and funny and entertaining that I would not mind going back and rereading them. The next book on my list is, it's just a book, not a series, and it's Sweatpants Season by Danielle Allen. I have not read a Danielle Allen book yet, and I feel like everyone around me has, and it's sad that I have not picked up her books yet, but I was like, I think I want to start with Sweatpants sweatpants season, because the premise of it just sounds really, really funny. Like, when you read the summary, it basically is the heroine talking about the fact that, you know, she was looking at a classmate, just regularly looking at it, and then he stood up and he had sweatpants on, and it was just right there. Like, the print was just visible and she couldn't help herself. And she says in the summary, like, I'm not objectifying him. That's not the first thing that I look for. I'm into intelligent conversation, and I am not seduced by sweatpants prints. And she is. And I think that a lot of people who read this one have really enjoyed it, and people that I really trust have given it like 4 or 5 stars. So it's one that I am anticipating really enjoying. The next one that I have on the series is Saving Sunflower by Ray Lease. I don't know how I found this one. I think I was randomly just on KU just looking at books, and this one popped up, and I was looking at the reviews, and a lot of people really enjoyed it. It focuses on a hero who is kind of like a hustler and a part-time rapper, and he is not really guaranteed to live that long. Like, his life expectancy, I believe in this description, talks about how he's not expected to make it to 22, and all of that changes when he ends up meeting this waitress. It's a really long book, I think, but a lot of people said that it's really good, and it's a lot of people's first read of this author, and they end up really going back and enjoying the rest of her work. So I thought that I would just randomly give this one a try. And the last one on my list is another series, because I am a fan of starting series and not finishing them. Last year I also ended up reading a whole bunch of books from Shea Sanders. I really delved heavily into her backlist last year, particularly in her On the Clock series. So I read the first 7 books in that series last year, and she recently dropped the 8th book in the series, and I was like, I need to pick it up as soon as it dropped. I never got to it. I don't know why I never got to it, but it was on my list to finish, and I never did get to read it. So I need to finish that 8th and final book in the series, because the first 7 books were absolutely great. I really enjoyed On the Clock. It made me realize how much I enjoy workplace romances, and I don't know what that says about me as a person, but I do really enjoy them. And so I need to go ahead and wrap up and finish that 8th book. So all these books are connected in some way. They take place at the same company, and some of them do impact other ones, and they are just really good. They're really short reads, but they're excellent. And I really do like Shea Sanders as a writer, because my goodness gracious, I've probably read now somewhere in between like 10 to 12 of her books, and they've all been excellent. I've really enjoyed all of them. So looking forward to reading another one by her this year. Y'all, so those are, I want to say 10 books, but it's not really 10 books. It's more than 10 books. But those are 10 books slash series that I have on my radar for 2022. Hopefully, if I finish some of these series for real, I will get the opportunity to do kind of like a series review, which we did a couple of those last year, and those were really fun. Like, I like doing reviews. I know that they take a little bit of time to get some traction on YouTube, especially within like the booktube community, but they are some of my favorite things to do. So hopefully I do finish some where I can do reviews, or I finish enough of an author's backlist where I could do kind of like an author spotlight. I think that would be something fun to do. But as always, if y'all like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, click the subscribe button, and be on the lookout for Deidra's video coming at you soon. It feels really great to be back. Bye y'all.